Halloween! Not just the holiday, but also the film. They're both called Halloween. Wrote by John Carpenter, director of The Thing, Halloween tells the story of a mute killer who goes around stabbing people wearing a mask. Like every other slasher film, basically. But on the other hand, Halloween actually did help start a lot of the trends, and does a lot of them right as well. So let's actually look at Halloween.
I got you. Hey, I can see that you're doing Halloween. You know, I think Halloween's one of the best films ever made. Can I do a review of it, please?
Well, you're already in frame, so why not?
Awesome. Let's talk about John Carpenter's Halloween.
Did you break my set for a scare?
Okay, first things first, I think this is the godfather of all horror films. We're going to talk more about why we both think this is a brilliant example of how you do horror correctly. What do you think we should talk about first?
I think probably the first thing we should talk about would probably be just the general atmosphere of the entire film.
At the beginning of the film, before anything starts, you go in straight to the credits and you see just the pumpkin light up. And what makes that scene brilliant is the music. It's just a few simple notes that keep repeating. And it's actually done by John Carpenter as well. John Carpenter did that music. And just, you think it's so simple, but it's so effective as well. When you hear like the music and you hear like the piano, the other piano in the background as well. It's a simple thing, but it's so effective how it does it. And then you hear the children chanting a trick or treat song. And then you have a point, from beginning to end with the music, I think it just works really well. It's not over the top, it's just really simple. That's why I like the music.
Honestly, probably the only bad thing about that intro is that weird little cut on the pumpkin's lip. I mean, look at that. I just can see nothing else but that the entire time.
Well, you know what I thought about that? Because they were on such a low budget, I think they made a mistake and John Carpenter goes, we can't afford a pumpkin, just use that one.
Because we spent all our money on these leaves that don't exist in LA.
Well, the funny thing is actually as well, like, you see all the leaves falling, yeah? If they have to do a shot again, they have to collect all the leaves back up and make them fall again.
Yeah, funny story, the film, infamous for being in Haddonfield, Illinois, filmed in California, so they didn't have those leaves. They had to bring them with them.
And also, when they're walking down, Halloween's set in autumn, but you can see the trees are green and the leaves are alive.
This is the greatest Halloween I ever did see.
But anyway, you can see, they can't roll because they had to film that time to make a schedule for.
Yeah.
So you forgive them for that.
Yeah, a lot of it's just like nitpicking in like hindsight.
Yes.
Well, those things you just kind of like brush aside, unless it's in the remake, in which case it's a terrible movie.
Let's not talk about the remake and its horrible sequel as well.
It had a sequel! I feel like one of the things that like really did just kind of like cement the film in people's minds was that first scene where it's Dr. Sam Loomis, played by... His mind just suddenly slipped my mind.
Donald Pleasence.
That was it! How did I forget that?
But I always got to be careful what I say because I always got mixed up between Donald Pleasence and Donald Sutherland. I don't know why.
It's an easy mistake.
Yeah, yes.
One of them was the Father Kiefer, the other one was in James Bond. But it's just the way he delivers that entire speech that's just been ingrained in people's consciousness with the characters talk about pure evil, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Is that the first scene?
That was like, yeah, the first scene when it goes to the asylum.
Well, the first scene actually is when it's the first point. It's first person view from a child, Michael, where he goes into his sister's house and he stabs himself with a machete.
That is a kitchen knife.
Oh, not machete. So you got that.
What kind of kid would have a machete in the kitchen?
Yeah, so
I keep it next to the sledgehammer.
Yeah, so the first scene is where Michael, as a child, it's a first-person view shot of Michael walking to his house, and he picks up a kitchen knife and he stabs his sister to death. And that's just a really good scene. I mean, because when he's stabbing, you hear like this really huge noise from music, and like the thing is though, you don't realise it's from a kid's point of view until they actually take off the mask. And you just see a boy there standing with a bloody kitchen knife, just standing and staring into space. And I find that just scene alone very disturbing. Not shot, even very disturbing.
I think we can improve it by making everyone look like Rob Zombie and giving him a traumatic childhood. So you might wonder, if you're wondering why the child seems to have Mr. Fantastic arms, that's because it was a grown woman who was actually doing this.
Yes. But that leads us to the character himself, Michael Myers. I'm just talking about this film alone, not talking about the sequels. What I love so much about Michael Myers is he is a mystery. We don't know anything about him. All we know is that he's pure evil. You know, when you hear the doctor talking about him, you can tell that he's afraid of this killer, and he's talking for days. He was talking about how he's trying to help this boy, but then you realise he needs to lock him away because he knows pure evil.
Of course, the sequels kind of retconned some things that kind of took away a bit of that mystery. Honestly, I feel like Halloween's best if you just watch this film on its own, without making it like a full feature thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best living in ignorance.
With Michael was like, what's so good? Like he didn't say anything, and he just stands there, very static, and like even when he's chasing after his victims, he still walks. He doesn't run throughout the whole of his film, and I think that's even more disturbing. There's a scene where one of his victims is trying to open the door, and it's locked, and you just see Michael in the distance walking towards it. And I find it more creepy, more threatening than someone just running towards it. You know, he's very calm. Like, I mean, he knows what he's doing. And I find that really disturbing.
He's definitely a lot different from, say, Jason, who's just like kind of built like a tank and just takes all these things. Michael does a lot of sneaking, so you don't see him for a lot of the film.
No, yeah, exactly. He's very good at that. And what's so good about Halloween as well is it's layered. I mean, you can watch it lots of times and you'll notice things you haven't seen the first time. There's like one scene where one of his victims, this is way before he kills her, but she's locked in like this room. She can't get out, but then you can see Michael in the background looking at her through the window. Yeah, that's the first time I didn't see that, but the second time, but oh look, he's right there. But it just shows how good he is.
Yeah, it just feels like such a build-up for a kill that never happens.
Yes.
And then like it kind of puts, then suddenly you're at ease again because it's like, oh, the danger's past. And then when he actually gets it, it comes out of nowhere. It's just like this little moment of like, wait, something's wrong, and then it happens.
Also, when I was talking about his killings, what's so good I think about this film is it doesn't focus too much on how he kills his victims. It's a simple stab, and I think that's one thing that horror filmmakers need to realise, that it's not all about how they die. It's more about the actual killer himself. I mean, there's a lovely scene where he pins one of his victims up to a wall and then stabs the person, and then leaves the person there hanging, and he just stares at it, tilts his head slightly. It's like a child saying, "Look what I've made."
I kind of like the Cinema Snob commentary on that, where it's like, I'm just gonna think about the physical possibility of what I just did, because there's no way that knife was long enough to stab through a guy and into a door and have the strength to keep him pinned. Again, it's one of those things that you just kind of like
just ignore. Yeah. And I don't think the film focuses too much on scares as well. It doesn't try to make the audience jump. Because I think John Carpenter is a very confident director. He knows he can scare his audience in the long run. Like he knows, like, right, this character Myers, he's creepy anyway. What he does is scary enough. I don't need to have scenes where someone comes out of nowhere. There's a couple of scenes where he pops out, but
it's all that's all towards the end of the film. It's a lot like Alien in that most of the film is build up. It's mostly just during the day and people going about their business, and it's kind of building the atmosphere of what this killer is, and you're kind of waiting for him to do something. And then when he does, that's when everything gets going. But it feels like it's earned that tension, and because it's a build-up, it doesn't feel like it gets slow or anything like that.
But also, it gives you time to get to know the characters. Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. Her character. You know that she is, good. She's a very intelligent person. She's not all about partying and everything. She's a very innocent person. You know what her best friends are like. They're the complete opposite to her. So you kind of get the idea of what they're like before the killing spree starts. But also, I must say, even though the scenes of her are great, you have to have Donald Pleasance. I mean, he was terrific. Do you know they only had him for 3 days?
Really?
Yeah, because they could only have him for 3 days, so they had to shoot all the scenes then. But I think because you can tell that he knew the character he was playing really well. When he's just talking about Michael Myers, I think those scenes in itself are scary. When he talks about him glaring into Michael's eyes, I mean that gives you a kind of a glimpse of what Michael is like underneath the mask. But still, at the same time, it's quite scary just hearing it all.
Yeah, it's not just that film as well, but also like carrying it into the sequels. He just seems to be one of those actors who, when you get Donald Pleasance for a role, you get Donald Pleasance. He isn't like half-assing it. He's giving it his all.
Yes, that's right.
So let's go to our final rundown. I love the atmosphere. I love the character Michael Myers. I love Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, whose name I just completely forgot once again. And the pacing, so for me, it's a 9 out of 10. I really wish I could think of more reasons to justify a 10 out of 10, but I'm just trying to be objective here. Maybe if Heather Langenkamp, character from Nightmare on Elm Street, was the lead in this, I would have liked it.
Okay, I personally think this is a masterpiece. Like I said earlier, it's the godfather of all horror films for me. I think it gets horror just right. It knows what horror needs to be. I like everything about this film. You know, I know there's a few glitches about, you know, like the fact there are green leaves when it's autumn, but you can get past that anyway. I think this is just a perfect film. It's a film that everyone needs to see if they're into a horror film. It's a good way to introduce people to horror as well. So for me, it's going to be a 10 out of 10.
Absolutely check this out before October's over. If you can see this in a cinema, if your local cinema is showing this film, absolutely go see this film in the cinema. That was one of my favourite cinema experiences when I took Jim to see. He hadn't seen it before.
Ooh, that's good.
And it was just a cinema full of people who were like laughing at scenes, that were like making fun of it as well. But when there was scary stuff, people were like actively like screaming, and my friend was just getting so into it.
But I personally don't bother the sequels because I think they ruin certain things, and they do pad out a lot, and it gets a bit samey after a while.
If you're looking for silent killer sequels, stick with Friday the